Okay, welcome, my friends, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be talking today about, it's pretty unbelievable that it's now taken place, actually. I think you know what we're talking about. These long-range missiles now being approved into Russia. Now, you've probably heard all about this over the last 24 hours with Biden approving it. We're going to go over some articles as well, and we're going to talk quite deeply on this today. But what you're probably not hearing at the same time is also the UK and France as well have been waiting for this green light. If you remember that video I made actually, where we talked about this, and I said this is it. It's about to Everyone's approved it from all the main countries through to NATO, and now they're all going for that meeting. If you remember that meeting with Joe Biden, and at the very last minute, he said no. His advisors said no, it's too dangerous. This will risk World War III if we do this. And then if you think about what's occurred over the last couple of weeks, especially since the Trump win, we've seen very positive talk going forward. Very, very positive talk indeed about all of this. Zelensky was talking very positively about this could be ending. He seemed very positive about that. He talked positively about Trump. You saw Putin talking quite positively also about Trump and saying he was happy that this could de-escalate and there could be an end to the war. Everything was going really, really well. And then all of a sudden, we've just seen this announcement overnight. And it made me sit there and say, what was that about? Now, I've got three theories on that. Number one, I think the most obvious one is it always comes down to money. None of these defense companies and people in power want this war to end. Why? Because they're making a fortune off it. I'll show you some of the ETFs, exchange traded funds, and some of the stocks and stuff in a moment on this. They didn't want the gravy train to end. Number two is Trump. Certain people didn't want him to win, and now they have. They will do anything to sabotage before he gets into power. And look at Starmer. He's wanted this to keep going he's actually said now we're ironclad and we're going to double down on the support. It's pretty worrying stuff. I've got some really interesting and summarized articles. As always, I've done hours and hours of research and I'm summarizing it all for you. So we'll go through that. Now, just real quick, because it is a serious topic today. Last year, I know a lot of you couldn't get into the Black Friday because there was only limited coupons each day. So this year, I'm going to start it a week early. And I've also opened a new academy for you as well. So all of this will be available and you can do it on a tier. Like I promised, it will be a tier for less than $50 a month. So it's almost nothing if you're in the UK as well because of the exchange. So that's there. And then on the courses, all you do is you put in the coupon code. You just type in the coupon code SAVE and that will take 90% off, as I promised I would do again this year. So that's all I'm going to say because I want to get into the topics here, quite serious things we're going to talk about today. And all of those links are in the description below. Now, here we go then. This is the big article. This is the big topic. Biden, out of nowhere, has just decided to allow Ukraine to strike with long-range missiles. Now, I said there was a third point, and I'll tell you the third reason as well, which a lot of people are overlooking. It could be the fact that Russia surprised me. If they're talking about resolution and peace, why on earth did they fire these 120 missiles and 90 drones into Ukraine and cause this mass damage this week? It doesn't make any sense to me why on earth Putin or whoever authorized that would actually do that, because that's given ammunition now for Biden to say, okay, here we go, here's the long-range missile. So I've got three theories here, but I'll tell you the one I think is absolute nonsense right away, and this is the mainstream narrative, and they're saying that it's because North Korea is sending their army, and it's like, when I say it makes me laugh, I don't mean it ha ha funny. I mean it's like ridiculous when they say North Korea is sending their army. Do you know how many soldiers North Korea has in their army? They're not sending their army. There's reports of 10,000 troops, which I think is true, but Russia and North Korea deny it. And the sort of narrative is that these troops are Russian, but they're just from a different part of Russia where people look North Korean. So whichever line it is, it doesn't really matter. The bottom line is, I don't believe this narrative that that is the reason that Biden's authorized these missiles now because North Korea is sending its army. It's not. That would be absolutely ridiculous. So let's go through some of this then. So he's just got 2 months left in office. Why on earth would he do this? And another point, actually, and I'm jumping back and forth here, but another point on this is if you are the president or you're the leader, you're the prime minister, whatever, it's sort of let's just say it's polite to not make any decisions when you know you're coming out of power. Don't make any decisions that's going to dramatically affect the country or the next president or the political party coming into power. This is such an escalation. And we know what Putin said back in September. He made it very clear what he would do under these circumstances. So we've got that statement as well. So he's 2 months left in office. He's now allowed the ATACMS missiles to be used in the Kursk region of Russia. So this is where they're going to be used first. And they say that it's going to be self-defense against North Korean troops in that region. It's a major change in US policy. It has divided his own advisors within the Democratic Party. So that's telling you something. And it's just 2 months before Trump is about to take office, having vowed to limit further support for Ukraine. Allowing the Ukrainians to use these long-range missiles, known as the Army Tactical Missile Systems, that's what it stands for, but we just call them ATACMS. It came in response to Russia's surprise decision to bring North Korean troops into the fight, officials said. But again, this is still a highly debated situation with these North Korean troops. While the officials said they do not expect the shift to fundamentally alter the course of the war, one of the goals of the policy change, they said, is to send a message to the North Koreans that their forces are vulnerable and they should not send more of them. Well, do you really think the leader of North Korea is going to, be somehow concerned by that? Oh, you send 10,000 troops. They don't consider a human life the same that we consider a life. In certain countries around the world, the leaders consider life to be cheap. And I remember that when I was traveling a long time ago, I was in Southeast Asia. I was going through Thailand, Laos, Myanmar, all these other countries, what you call Burma, previously Burma. And I saw an incident where someone died, just in the middle of the street. And I was like, what on earth is going on here? I just couldn't believe it. And people were sort of like, and the man said to me, the tour guide, he said, my friend, life here is cheap. And it always stuck with me, and I remembered that for a long time afterwards. So this is what they're saying then, that they're sending a message to North Korea. I don't really think they're going to care, to be honest. So I don't think it's effective. They said that while the Ukrainians were likely to use the missiles first against Russia and North Korean troops, Biden could authorize them to use the weapons elsewhere. And I think that is what we're going to see. Now, US officials said they fear the use of these because it could prompt Putin's reaction, basically, his retaliation with force against the United States and its coalition partners. The US military is about to do this major assault, by the way. It's about 50,000 soldiers because they want to reclaim these positions, if you remember the positions here. So the Ukrainians could be using these as well as key pieces of military equipment, logistics nodes, ammunition depots. This is what they're going to be striking within Russia. So they've said here that it's largely been successful, so Biden's approach, averting a violent Russian response. Allowing these strikes could change that equation. And this is what all of the articles have said as well. It's all said that this could change a lot of it. This is just updated, actually. I did have everything highlighted here, but the BBC has done a big article on this as well. How this is going to change things. So if you look at this map here, what sort of change will this have? Well, it's going to change a lot. This is the range of the HIMARS system, 47 miles. And now with the ATACMS, there's going to be up to 190 miles. So you can see this takes into account a lot more Russian territory. Now, this is what the Kremlin said then. This was the response here. On September 12th, so this is when he made his initial statement, Putin pointed out that a potential decision to use these Western long-range weapons against Russia would mean nothing less than direct involvement of the United States and other NATO countries in the war in Ukraine. This would drastically alter the nature of this conflict, and Russia would be forced to take appropriate measures in response to the escalating threats. This is what he warned. Putin emphasized that Ukraine would not be able to strike deep into Russian territory without Western support, as it would require satellite intelligence and flight missions to do so. On November 17th, so just yesterday, the New York Times reported that Biden had authorized strikes using these tactical ballistic missiles. Remember, these are ballistic missiles. In turn, then, there was this article that came out that claimed France and the UK had also now authorized strikes with the Scalp and Storm Shadow tactical missiles, which of course would completely change the conflict. Now, what also happened was this article was then retracted or redacted. They actually took this down, and there's no information on this anyway. Now, one other point I just want to make is, although everyone's saying this is going to change the face of the war, and these are all journalists saying this, they are not military tactical advisors. They're not experts here. You listen to, and I'll pull up some of the statements, some of the actual military analysts are saying this is not going to win the war for Ukraine. Yes, it will help them with defense. Okay, so that's obviously a positive thing, but it's not going to win the war for them. It's and again, you've got to look at it versus attack versus defense. If they fire a missile into Russia, very deep into Russia, is that defense or is it attack? Some people say it's attack, others say defense. Now, the reason they say it's defense is because they could target, say, an airfield where those planes are going to come in and do a strike. So that's the reason behind it, because I saw before people said, how can launching a rocket into Russia be a defensive move? So that's the sort of basis behind it. Okay, the next one then. Here we go. This was out of Yahoo. France and UK authorized strikes deep into Russia. So this is the Storm Shadow / Scalp here. And this was interesting then. I've been seeing all this stuff for all these investments. Invest in the global defense industry. They've got all these, promotional videos of Ukraine and all this, how you can make all this money. I think it's sad. I think it's sad that what they are doing at the moment, all these promotions for these ETFs, you should not really be allowed to do this, promote all of the war stuff on these ETFs. And this article came out earlier. This was earlier last year. Ukraine war is great for the portfolio as defense stocks enjoy a banner year. The top 5 US weapons firms outperformed major Wall Street indexes in the last year, mostly on the back of American taxpayers. Of course, that's where the weapons money comes from. So this was the Raytheon CEO. He told investors that global instability presented a profit opportunity for his weapons firms. We are seeing, I would say, opportunities for international sales. Tensions in Eastern Europe, they're talking about all this amazing things. This is so amazing, this war, because we're making profits. Yeah, what about the people? What about all the civilians that are being killed? They seem to not care about any of this. The big 5 weapons firms achieved impressive stock growth since the whole thing took place. 12.78% on average. It's sad. It's sad. And they even gave you a financial analysis here. If you'd have put in a $10,000 investment, it would be worth 11,277 today. It's unbelievable the way that they are marketing and promoting all this. I just saw this came out today as well. RAF Typhoon fires cutting-edge cruise missile that could target Russian ships. They actually put it in the headline. They actually put that in the headline. It's crazy. The tiny little country that is the UK is going to be targeting Russian ships, apparently. So they've just trialed this jet in Sweden. And now the UK's just had the first batch of F-35s, and it's going to be complete by 2025. Starmer, this is out of The Independent, urges doubling down of Ukraine's support as Biden approves the missile use. Keir Starmer, we need to double down on support, and we need to allow these weapons to strike inside of Russia. This man is an absolute warmonger. He's a buffoon. Out of the New York Times, US intelligence stresses risks in allowing long-range strikes by Ukraine. This is the intelligence agencies, by the way. You can see it here. Concluded that granting Ukraine's request to use missiles inside Russia could prompt forceful retaliation, while not fundamentally changing the course of the war. This is the whole point. It's not going to change the course of the war. US intelligence agencies believe that Russia is likely to retaliate with greater force against the United States and its coalition partners, possibly with lethal attacks if they agree to give the Ukrainians permission to employ US, British, and French supplied long-range missiles. It says it here in black and white, and they have done it anyway. Out of the Standard, Ukraine must be in strongest possible position, says number 10. That's if you're not in the UK. Number 10 is Downing Street. That's where the Prime Minister is. So he's doubling down. Look, Keir Starmer is doubling down. And we just had some comments coming out as well. This is Trump Jr. saying that well, he's saying what's true here. The military-industrial complex seems to want to make sure they get World War III before my father has a chance to create peace and save lives, he tweeted. Gotta lock in those trillions, life be damned imbeciles. He's not far wrong at all. Now, this is what I was just referring to earlier. It came out of Euronews. Zelensky did this interview, he was doing several interviews, and he said that he hopes that all of this is going to end, very shortly, that the war's going to end. He's very positive, he's very excited about all of this ending. And then and then within 2 days, you have this massive reversal. It was such a strong U-turn that came out of nowhere that it leads me to only one conclusion. And that is when you start looking at all these things, you apply logic and common sense. It reminds me of what happened a couple of years back, where Boris Johnson went into that meeting where they were going to have the peace talks, and that was it. The war was going to be over, and Boris just destroyed all those peace talks and said, no, don't do it. We'll give you whatever we want. All of us as partners will give you whatever we want. Again, I don't really believe that story entirely either. Why would you, if you've got a peace deal, why would you just say, okay, yeah, let's carry on this war? It didn't really make a lot of sense. So apparently Zelensky's just done this U-turn for no apparent reason. Of course there was a reason. There always is. Somebody went to him, somebody spoke to him, and that's why he's done this massive U-turn. He was all positive and happy. Oh yes, Trump, and yes, this is all great. Next thing you know, massive U-turn. He's not being very positive towards Trump now, and he seems to want this to continue. It's bizarre, and I think this is all around money. It always is. Whenever I follow all these things to conclusion, it's always around money with these weapons manufacturers, and that's why they're celebrating their stock market wins and growth at the minute. So yeah, that's it for that's it for the time being, ladies and gents. So yeah, crazy. All right, well, get started with your Black Friday sales here. We'll start it a week early this week. So all right, take care. God bless, guys.